Wouldn't it be better if you put her someplace?
You mean an institution? A madhouse?
You just found the marble in the oatmeal. You're a lucky, lucky, lucky little boy. Do you know why? You get to drink from the fire hose! Okay, you ready? Open wide! I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
Yeah, you want to see crazy?
You really are crazy.
I don't get it, Doc. I mean, how can all this be happening? It's like we're in hell or something.
No, it's Hill Valley, although I can't imagine hell being much worse.
Now you want to get nuts? Shut up, you freak! Come on! I said shut up! It's a madhouse! A madhouse!
Hello and welcome to Movie Madhouse, a podcast about films lost to the annals of time. I'm Travis Fishburne.
And I am Alex Brunel. Hello.
And this week we will be covering Pet Shop, a family movie about aliens that are in the business of human trafficking.
Yes. And just as a super downer reality aside, people are being taken into unmarked vans by unidentified federal agents in San Diego and Portland. And if you are a person with a brain, that should be horrifying to you. And yeah, that's it. The federal government plans to send these Homeland Security troops into more democratic-leaning cities. Like, they released that, they gave a list of these cities. Yeah, be concerned, people, and for the love of all that, whatever you love most, for the love of that, please just vote this monster out of the White House in November. That's all. Get rid of the human garbage pile, because he wants to kidnap you into an unmarked van if you dissent. Like, that's not even a stretch of the truth. That's not even stretching the truth anymore. That's literally just what's happening. Anyway, moving on to the aliens that are abducting people, the unidentified alien agents that are abducting people in the film Pet Shop from Moonbeam Entertainment in 1994.
Yeah, I didn't quite think through that introduction when I knew what you were talking about.
Thank you for a segue.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a synopsis of this movie on IMDb and one on Wikipedia, and the one on Wikipedia is actually like so incoherently written that I didn't even bother copying and pasting that one, and instead went with the more direct IMDb synopsis, which I'll just read right here. A couple of alien slavers disguised as cowboys arrived to Earth to open up an ET pet shop in a small desert town where the FBI is hiding witnesses against the mob. This is also written like hiding witnesses from the mob who and these aliens want to kidnap human children and sell them off at alien slave auctions. That is the plot of the movie. They never say slaves in the movie. They say pets, but it means slaves.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And this was your pick, Travis. What is your history with this movie?
I've seen it at least once. I feel like it was a few times, but I feel like based on what I witnessed, I should have remembered more.
Dude,
same. Maybe I only saw it once.
Same. I really have a recollection of seeing this movie as a young person, but I also know for a fact that I rented it from Video Spectrum while we were in college, and I watched it at that time, like 2007, 2008. And at that time, I have it in writing that I enjoyed the movie. And I wish I could say that was the same case, the same scenario I had today. What exactly I wrote was, this is pretty standard moonbeam fare, by which I mean it's a really pleasant and nifty return to a simpler time. Weird animals were puppets and not computer effects, and kids in movies seemed happy. Anyway, I like this movie a lot. I disagree with me. Yeah.
Past self.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
The nostalgia glasses are off on this one, because it's no es bueno. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've seen it at least twice, but it was like watching it for the first time. For sure, it was like watching it for the first time.
Yeah. It's a weird movie. It's
Truly, with so many weird
it-
decisions.
Yeah, in the description, I mean, we'll talk about this, but you say that the aliens are disguised as cowboys.
Right.
I don't know if that's the case. It seems to be like that's what they like to look like.
It is. It does seem that that's just what they want to do. I mean, they're trying to do it to. It seemed like they're trying to do it to blend in, but also then, like, in the decor of the ship, there's like a big bushy mustache with this big
pipe
coming out of it. Like, I should have taken a bunch of screen.
What purpose did that serve?
What did that
I
do?
meant to take a screenshot of that and send it to you to show, because I'm like, what was this?
What did that do? What was the function of that object?
I was waiting for it to like be implemented,
Right.
and then when the movie ended, I was like, what was up with that thing?
This is one of those movies that I feel like, just more or less, just like the climax doesn't really resolve. It more just kind of stops happening.
Yeah, yes, it does. Once the goons get teleported into space, it's like, all right.
So, I mean, we'll get to that when we talk about the ending, but we got the goons again in this movie. Different goons, but very similar goons. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's a hallmark of Moonbeam Entertainment.
So many things in this movie are hallmarks of Moonbeam Entertainment that I'm really realizing. The previous Moonbeam movie we've discussed on the show is Prehysteria. And so a lot of the ground that we covered in talking about that movie, we're going to not in this, which is like the history of that company, which is it's a subsidiary of Full Moon Entertainment, and Charles Band is the producer, and was launching this at the same time as like a softcore smut label to put out these kinds of movies that weren't just like B-grade horror movies. And also, like Prehysteria, this movie is, quote, from an idea by Pete Von Scholey, who's a storyboard artist, and on this movie, the second unit director, actually, which I have to imagine was, like, some kind of thing for him. I would imagine similar to, like, Michael Davis being like, all right, I will do your page one rewrite of Prehysteria 3, but then I get to make Beanstalk. I have to imagine it's like, okay, I will work for peanuts for another 3 movies, but you gotta let me direct, like, something. I imagine maybe that was the conversation with Pete Von Scholey. So another fart of a concept sketched out into a feature.
Yeah.
And that's
I think he was really into it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we can go ahead and throw this up since you're talking about him.
Yeah.
I've got some artwork from Pete Von Scholey of like alternate designs for the creatures
that are pretty cool, and I like the creatures in the movie quite a bit actually. But these designs are very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know where did you find this? I didn't find this.
Oh, I found this when I was like trying to find like photos of the aliens, and somebody from like 2006 had written a review and found this artwork. I don't know where he found it, but
oh, interesting. Because I tried to find reviews. I found some vintage news article that didn't have much pertinent information about like the formation of Moonbeam from back in the day. But I couldn't find like actually almost any background information on this movie. So I'm glad that you found this cool sketch.
That's about the only thing I could find.
I believe it. So also back in the day, Moonbeam and Full Moon on their VHS releases, because they were, that was where their movies came out, was VHS. They would usually include a thing called Video Zone, which was like a 15 to 20 minute, basically electronic press kit, behind the scenes, fluffy documentary thing about whatever the movie was that you just watched. And I watched Pet Shop's Video Zone today in hopes that it would illuminate something. It illuminated nothing.
Just watch. Let us tell you.
Yeah, it says all the things that you already know. Like, it just didn't illuminate at all. It was just like the kids talking about like, yeah, we have to go to school on set, and it's like hard, it's not all fun and games. It's like, okay, yeah. And then the director talking about, yeah, so we came across this idea and we just thought it was really cute, and it could be like I wanted it to be like a cartoon. It's like, okay, yeah. Like, sure. Yeah.
And the thing is, I like the concept.
The concept is not bad.
It's, very similar to Prehysteria. Kids getting these miniature puppets that are just different creatures.
Yep.
But, and I think that's what appealed to me most as a kid was these, interesting alien creatures.
Yeah,
I was
for sure.
always very drawn to the turtle one. Was always my favorite.
My favorite was like the Furby one, the rabbit.
Yes, which is just a Furby.
It's
but
really,
before Furbies even existed.
Yeah, like I wrote in my notes like Furby or Mogwai / Furby, but it's like actually way close to the design of a Furby.
Yeah.
So I still like the designs of these and the fabrications of these puppets a lot. I think they're really, really cool looking, and I think I think some of the sets in the movie are very cool. I think the interior of the main family's house, like the witness protection house, I thought the interior of that house was one of the most boring house interiors I've ever seen in a film.
Terrible. When they're sitting around eating dinner, I'm like,
my gosh,
this is hideous.
Yeah, I wrote a note about that too, where like the sunset backdrop out the window just looked like they had gone and found like a sunset painting at Goodwill and just hung it on the other side of a window frame on this interior set that they had built. Oh my gosh. But I thought that their lair, whatever, like the UFO or their office that had invaded the back of the pet shop, I thought that place looked really cool. I liked the design of that room a lot, and I liked the design of the town overall. I like how cartoonishly drab it is. I love that, like, it's just like TV shop, bookshop, pet shop, barber shop. It's just like nondescript shops.
Yeah,
I thought,
insert shop name here.
Yeah. I thought that was funny. The things I was amused by in this movie, I was quite amused by, but they were not enough to overcome how deeply weird and vaguely troubling other aspects of this movie are.
Agreed.
So I dug around again on IMDb like I do for information about the people who made this movie, and I can't say that there is a lot of interesting stuff to report, man. A woman named Hope Perello directed this movie. Her only prior directing credit was The Howling Six, and her only subsequent directing credit was St. Patrick's Day, which is a 1997 early Asylum movie. Asylum of Sharknado and Mistreating Their Crew fame. Anybody who ever thinks that it might be fun to work on an Asylum movie, it's not. It's bad. It just feels bad. It is bad. Don't do it. Aside from being a director, Hope did a lot of work on the production end of things, like as a production manager or a line producer, these kinds of things, on a lot of other Full Moon stuff prior to this movie, but has kind of disappeared from the industry since 1997, from what I could tell. Like I mentioned before, it's From an Idea by Pete Von Scholey, and the same guys who fleshed out that Fart of an Idea into a screenplay for Prehysteria have done the same here, Mark Goldstein and Greg Sudeth, along with a new guy, Brent V. Friedman, who, I don't know, did you look up this guy, Travis? Because you're going to like what I have to say here. Good.
Oh, no.
Okay,
yeah.
So he's written a lot of TV for a lot of years, like a lot of various TV shows. Wrote Mortal Kombat Annihilation, apparently. Has written some episodes of Star Wars Rebels, and most recently, the Bad Batch arc of Clone Wars.
Whoa.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Right?
Wow, that ties into like recent news and stuff.
I know. I wonder if Pet Shop's Brent V. Friedman will be working on the Bad Batch TV show.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, even if he's not working on it, he would still get... I mean, does he get paid because he like helped create those characters?
That's a good question. No clue.
Because that's like a WGA thing, right? When you create characters and they're used again, you get payment for that.
I do not know. I know that the WGA doesn't cover feature animation. I do not know if they cover TV animation. So that I do not know that. But I do know that for some, due to... I do know it's not. It's for an archaic reason, and the archaic reason is that animated films, when these deals were struck, like, you know, decades and decades and decades ago, the process was cell animation, and the process of writing a cell animation script was not much like writing a feature-length live-action script. It was more a process of drawing and storyboarding, and writing the script around the imagery that you were wanting to use, and so it was kind of like a groupthink thing. And so when those contracts got negotiated, since there weren't dedicated quote-unquote writers in the traditional sense at the time for animation. Those weren't included, and that's of course since become much more of a problem as time has gone on, and the process of animation, writing for animation, has become different and a little bit more toward like writing a regular feature film in a lot of ways, and these writers are still not being covered by the WGA, and it's another one of these things where it's like, well, the producers don't want to pay for that because they haven't been paying for it, and it's Hollywood producers, so they're not going to pay for another thing that they haven't been paying for 70 years and start now. So it's a whole... Hollywood's gross, man.
Wow.
Hollywood is super gross. And also, according to IMDb, Michael Davis did some writing on this movie, although he's not credited on the movie itself. Again, Michael Davis began with Moonbeam and Full Moon. He made Beanstalk, and then he would go on to make 100 Girls, 100 Women, 8 Days a Week, Monster Man, and Shoot 'Em Up.
Yes.
And all that came out of him working for Full Moon. The composer on this...
The beginning of his anger starts here.
It very well could be. I'd be very interested to talk to Michael Davis again.
Yeah.
Just like, because we heard that there's the Creative Screenwriting podcast with Jeff Goldsmith from around the time Shoot 'Em Up came out, had a great interview with him that is no longer
It's one of the
online.
most memorable episodes of that show.
Totally. I don't remember almost any other episode of that show except when he really pissed off Bobcat Goldthwait. That was like a really... Did you ever hear that one? That one's great.
I heard a Bobcat episode. Did he do multiple ones? I don't remember him getting really upset.
Well, what it was is like, Jeff asked him about Hot to Trot, which is the movie where John Candy as a talking horse gives Bobcat Goldthwait stock tips, and it's like, you'd think that might be fun to watch because it sounds so dumb, but it's actually just really unfun to experience. I turned it off after about half an hour. But Bobcat hated that movie when he did it, and he hates it even more since. And, like, Bobcat dismissed the question outright, and then Jeff kind of pressed him because he thought Bobcat was just joking around. Then Bobcat got kind of mad and would only talk about Hot to Trot for like 20 minutes. He's like, you want to know about Hot to Trot? I'll tell you about Hot to Trot. And then wouldn't shut up about Hot to Trot. They got past it, but you could tell that Jeff was like, oh my God, what have I done?
Me when I was watching this movie. And was like, what have I done?
Yeah, I have to imagine a very similar reaction. The composer on this movie was a guy named Reg Powell, which really surprised me because from the very first note, I'm like, oh yes, another Richard Band Full Moon Moonbeam score. It sounds exactly like a Richard Band score, which is to say it sounds like a knockoff of every chintzy synthesizer-based family score from the late 80s to early 90s. But I guess Reg Powell is just knocking off the knockoff? I don't know.
He must have been like his understudy or something.
Must have been, because it really sounded like every other Richard Band score.
Yeah.
Maybe
as soon as I saw the name, I looked it up and I'm like, oh, Powell. Well, he's got to be like, I wonder if he's related to John Powell because...
Oh, that'd have been an interesting idea.
Yeah, because you see all these like composer, like people in the film industry, like the Newmans. Like there's 4 or 5 different Newmans that all compose and they're all related. But,
there's the Bernsteins too.
That's right. But no, not the case.
Not the same guy. And yeah, he regularly worked doing Full Moon-esque things throughout the 90s, but like seems kind of MIA since 2012. The movie was shot by a director of photography named Karen Grossman. So I do really like that this movie has a female director and a female cinematographer, which I feel like was not only rare for kind of like independent, like studio independent fare, but like especially for this company, I feel like that is pretty uncommon. And I don't necessarily like the work that either of them did. The movie was shot competently. It's not like it looks that bad. It looks fine. But I just do like that it's like, oh, there are ladies in charge of making this movie. I like that.
Yeah.
So
which is like, that's a rarity now.
It's a rarity now to have for there to be a female director and a female DP. It is becoming. I have seen it more and more frequently in the last handful of years since the industry has been really pushing to balance out that inequity. But yeah, I think that's really cool, this movie. She also shot the TV show Monsters from 1989 to 1991, which means a director that I worked for at the end of last year actually worked with Karen Grossman, because he directed an episode of Monsters that Paul Dini wrote. Paul Dini,
Oh, wow.
who would later like be one of the main guys on Batman the Animated Series, who got his start writing for television on the Ewoks TV show.
Yeah. Then he created Harley Quinn.
And yeah, he created Harley Quinn. The guy, okay, so just so everybody in the audience knows this, the guy who created Harley Quinn got his start on Ewoks the Animated Series. Just so everyone knows that. Okay.
And then he would go on, he would write for Clone Wars later as well.
Yeah, totally. And he's great. I mean, he's a great comic book writer, too. He's written a lot of really great comic books. She also shot some, Karen Grossman also shot some episodes of Tales from the Dark Side and a handful of other C-grade fair titles. Her first feature was the 1979 anti-classic Microwave Massacre, which is I'm another movie I turned off after I started watching it. It's just not as fun as you would hope a chintzy horror movie about microwave murders would be. The production designer on this movie was, again, Milo, another one of the compatriots that made Prehysteria. Sure, looks like a Milo movie. And Mark Rappaport was the creature fabricator, puppeteer, basically the guy responsible for those things. And, like, he has a long, long filmography that continues to this day. Like, he worked on Killer Clowns from Outer Space, The Fly 2, so many Full Moon and Moonbeam things, I'm not even gonna list any of them. He worked for KNB for a while, where he worked on Army of Darkness. He did the animatronic aliens in The Arrival, you know, he did, like, all kinds of stuff. He did, like, a random Van Wilder sequel in 2002, and he did the puppet armatures on Blair Thumb, Steve Odekirk's Blair Witch Thumb parody. You know, so, like, he just works. He just works. He does good work. I like.
Is he any relation to Michael Rappaport?
Ooh, did not investigate. Let me click see full bio to see if that. It does not say that that is the case. So I'm going to say no. He also doesn't look anything like Michael Rappaport.
I keep looking for all these connections. I'm like, are they related?
No, I think they're just bubble people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of all I got about, like, the personnel that made this movie. Kind of just the people who did this stuff. What about you? What do you got about the cast in this, Travis? There's a little bit of interesting stuff to talk about with the cast for sure.
Well, I don't know. There's Jeff Mikowski and Jane Morris played Mr. and Mrs. Zim, the two aliens. And they're like character actors. They've not been in a whole lot. However, they are real life spouses. They're former members of Second City, so that's where they got their start.
You could tell that they were, like, actually comically trained. I was pretty amused by their performances for the duration of the movie. Even as I thought that, like, why is this way? I thought that what they were doing with it was pretty funny.
Yeah. And then we got Terry Kaiser plays Joe Yeager, the father. You go ahead.
Mr. Bernie Lomax himself.
Oh, really?
Did you? Yeah, that's Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's, my friend.
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm used to him as a dead body. I don't.
With sunglasses on, I know it's hard to recognize him.
Wow.
But I mean, he's just like a super prolific character actor. But most notably is Bernie in both Weekend at Bernie's movies. He has dialogue in the first one, but not the second one, because he's still a corpse.
That's right. And and there's like voodoo magic keeping him dancing.
Yeah, he dances toward treasure because his corpse is under a voodoo curse.
That's right.
Weekend at Bernie's 2 is an unfathomably ill-conceived project, and I love that it exists. I don't think it's great, but I love that it exists. Yeah.
And then we got
Did any of these kids do anything?
The only kid of note is where you at, kid? Oh my. Cody Berger, who is Rocky from Christmas Vacation, who's one of the cousins. He's like a weird little kid that doesn't talk, and they like claim he got kicked by a donkey or something.
I kind of remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. He's in Christmas Vacation, and then he was also in Heavyweights later.
Yeah, I see he was in Heavyweights. I liked him in the movie. I liked him, actually. I quite enjoyed him in this movie. He was the one kid who I didn't, like, roll my eyes at the entire movie. Let's put it that way.
And then right off the bat, we've got Alfred Dennis, who played Barney, the shop owner, and he is, I mean, a very prolific character actor. He's in Get Shorty, and Catch Me If You Can, and Mr. Deeds. He's got a rubber knee prop.
I don't remember Mr. Deeds well enough to remember that. Yeah, I'm looking at him right now, and he's one of those guys, man. I'm like, I know this guy. I don't know where I know this guy from, but it's in 93 Things, so I just know this guy from stuff.
Exactly. You see his face, and you're like, oh, this guy.
Right.
Shashani Hall, who played Marshall Dave. He's a working guy. He's had nothing really of note except for he played some recurring characters in Coach and Jag.
Oh, I remember Jag.
Yeah.
Was that a show about fighter jets or something? What the hell was Jag about? That's a different podcast. I don't care what Jag's about.
I'm under 50. I don't know. And then we got Leonardo Vincent Cerdo and Nino Cerdo played the goons.
So Real Brothers played the Goon Brothers. And they're different. They're like, you could say that they're the same goons. They're the same basic goons as the Prehysteria goons, but they're different guys. Right? Yeah.
And they don't have as much character as the Prehysteria goons.
They actually don't. These goons are really awful. These are bad goons. Every character in this movie is bad.
Yeah, of the twins, one of them, like, this is his only credit. The other one did a few other things, but the other one was like, remember when you tried roping me into acting in that Pet Shop movie? And they only let me do it because I was your twin brother.
Oh, man. Yes. That it?
Yeah.
Anything else?
I mean, there's nothing really of note regarding the rest of this cast.
Yeah.
And the saddest thing of all is I was digging deep because I was trying to find, there's got to be somebody in here, somebody was either in some incarnation of Star Trek somewhere. But no, this is the first week where I've got no Star Trek connections.
You did send me this Star Trek graphic, though. Should I put that up?
Yes.
All
so
right.
Instead of any Star Trek connections, we're just going to highlight some Star Trek pets.
This is a wonderful collage of Star Trek pets.
Yeah.
I love the Barclay's making a Barclay face.
Mm-hmm.
Worf has to interact with these things that he has no business touching. I love the weird unicorn dog that Spock has there.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. And we can't forget maybe the most significant Trek pet, right?
Yes. Which is
these
the
guys. These guys.
Which is very similar to this movie, in which, it's an alien pet that's being pawned off on the the crew of the Enterprise.
Right.
That wreaks havoc.
Except that these are our hero aliens. And why don't I just... I'm going to flash them up now, because you took a nice screen cap of illustrating the aliens in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They become heroes. They get into some hijinks and try to save our kids at one point. So like we like these aliens. They're not making the trouble like the Tribbles.
Yeah, no, they're this is one thing when I was watching, I'm like, oh, they're doing more than the dinosaurs in Prehysteria did.
They did, yeah. They engaged a bit more, which I think was probably something that I would hope that's something that like they learned from making Prehysteria.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, maybe perhaps we should have them be active characters rather than just exist.
Yes.
So, yeah. So I guess let's dig in and start talking about like weird specifics in this movie, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
The main like actual plot of the thing, aside from like these aliens coming down, is there's a family and witness protection, who's Terry Kaiser and his wife and their 2 kids, Dina and Charlie. And they're kind of our main characters, even though we don't meet them until after the opening credits sequence. We meet Mikey, or Mike, this other neighborhood kid before.
Yeah, he's riding down. He seems to be riding down the middle of nowhere.
Yes, middle of
nowhere. And then
nowhere.
they're showing all of the shops.
Yeah.
And Sarah and I were both like, is he supposed to be riding by them? No, because that's not the case, because he like shows up later. Like, why was the editing so weird in that opening sequence?
It
I don't understand.
It was very weird. And yeah, that the original Pet Shop, what a depressing actual pet shop. The aliens come down and invade and like come out of the guys, the original Pet Shop owner's like back room with a suitcase full of cash.
Yeah.
The space cowboys are very weird and creepy and have a suitcase full of cash that they buy off the original Pet Shop owner with, which is weird.
And then Barney, the Pet Shop owner, just like snuggles the money when they present it to him.
Yep, that is what happens.
Like it's a long lost lover. He's like, oh, I've been waiting for this.
Oh God,
get me out of this town.
So,
and then another note is the P in Pet Shop isn't working, so it says ET Shop.
Oh, very correct. It does say ET Shop. That is, I did not even pick up on that. I just thought that was, my brain only went as far as like, oh yes, that is to make this look as decrepit as it is.
Yeah,
but no, you're right. It's ET Shop. You're right. That's a nice little observation. And then so yeah, there's a family and witness protection. So here's the immediate. Now the movie starts to get weirder. Like the cash is the first weird thing, and that's within the first like 4 minutes, and then we get this family moving into Cactus Flats, Arizona, which is where this movie takes place, is the fictional town of Cactus Flats, Arizona. And the family has like everything comically strapped to their roof, including a tuba, which is just weird. So we go into the car, we hear them talking, and the very first thing you notice is that these people are affecting literally the worst Brooklyn accents I have ever heard in my life in a movie. I really wanted them to all stop, like immediately. And so then we learn that this family's in witness protection because the dad ratted on a mob boss, and they are currently afraid of being murdered. They pull up to the house with their U.S. Marshal escort, and a car drives by and backfires. And they think they're being shot at, and they all huddle onto the ground and try to avoid.
Very comically.
Yeah.
They just pile on top of each other.
And this is within the first 10 minutes of a children's film that we are now like making this concern that this family is going to be murdered at any time. Which is such a weird element to bring into this whole thing. Like I do not understand why. I do not understand the inclination to go in that direction at all.
Yeah, I don't know either. Some added stress.
So we have, and then we get to see the alien lair in the new Pet Shop, which, like we said, is a pretty cool set. Like this weird silvery kind of like amorphous. There's no angles in it. It's all very curved and like just kind of like rounded everywhere and very weird looking. And Mrs. Zim, the space cowboy lady, is in a not very funny way, like reading a book of American slang and trying to learn American slang, which is kind of their shtick. Like, they speak in cowboy slang. And sometimes it's kind of cute, and sometimes it's just like, okay, that's what this movie's doing.
One of the lines is, badges, we don't need no stinking badges.
Right, that's printed in a phrase book.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Which that's just a famous quote from a movie. It's not a real thing.
Right, no one's talking about badges on the regular in the United States, especially at that time. So our introduction to the alien pets are when the little dragon one poops on the lady. And it's this like rainbow, like it looks like Gak, actually. Like Nickelodeon Gak. It looks like the poop is Gak.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than shiggle poop, is what she said.
She also says, they got gravity. Get down from there. Because it's just like suction cup feet to the ceiling. She vacuums it up with this dustbuster, and I don't know if you noticed the dustbuster prop, but the dustbuster prop looks like a thing straight out of Pee-wee's Playhouse. It's like covered in purple glitter and has a cardboard face on it or something.
Yeah, you're right. It does look like that.
So I like that weird little design. We only see it the one time. Like we said, these designs of these creatures are cool. There's a space dog, like a tiny space turtle thing with like a double nose, the Furby / Mogwai, and a little dragon, I guess.
Yeah, a little dragon,
Lizard.
armadillo lizard thing. I don't know.
They are just like really wonderful little creations. So
And they can instantly transform into normal things
right,
that look like they do on Earth.
right,
Which-
because that's just a superpower, I guess.
Yeah, and they have them disguise them all the time, which further I think implies that this is just how these the cowboy aliens like to look all the time.
Right, this is just like how they feel comfortable.
Yeah, if the pets are allowed to like let loose and be themselves, why wouldn't they do the same thing when people aren't around?
Yeah, no, I agree. But they keep their third eye covered at all time. The third eye is a reveal later on. So then we go back to the witness protection house, and Mike, the local neighborhood boy, just rides his bike over to meet Dina, and really this girl's Brooklyn accent just continues to be like. Actually, I really feel like this movie would have been like 400% less irritating if that family didn't try to affect that accent.
Yeah, it was, it was pretty rough hearing that the whole time.
And like the U.S. Marshal in this scene, because she starts to divulge too much information to Mike, so the Marshal comes out and like kind of is like, "I'm the uncle. Stop answering questions," and like basically just goes like, "Look, if you keep talking, you will be murdered." Like that's the subtext of what he says to her. And it's like, again, why are we watching a family film where we're trying to make the kids that are watching it relate to these kids who are afraid for their lives in witness protection? That seems weird. Yeah, and then that's when we meet the mobster in the prison, and we meet the goons. The goons. So, and then, okay, so Dina, the Brooklyn girl, tries to very much to be like a hard ass the whole movie, right? And she wants to just be this like stoic, like mean streets kind of girl, but really she desperately wants a puppy because they couldn't take their dog into witness protection with them for some reason. I am very unclear as to why they had to leave the dog behind.
The dog knew too much.
What? But just why? I cannot. Of all the things, like I could see like maybe her being sad about a dog that had recently died. It just makes less than no sense to me for like, why couldn't we bring the dog along? Why can't you bring the dog along?
That doesn't make sense. Yeah, that would have been a much better way to do it, as if she had like recently lost her pet.
Right.
So
like, obviously you're gonna need to have that character, like, for the foil, like she needs to have an emotional void that needs to be filled. And so the setup is like, I had this dog that I don't have anymore, but it's like, why make it you just couldn't bring the dog? That's very weird.
Also, in her room, right above her bed, is a framed photograph of a completely different dog. Which I was like, who is this? Another dog that she had? What's this?
I did not even notice that. Oh my god. So yeah, okay. So now the alien space cowboys have transformed the bland, boring pet shop into the only flashy store in town. It is now a destination. It is packed with patrons and customers.
People are obsessed with pets in this town.
They really are like all in on like, oh my god, there's something to do and it's sparkly. We need to go there right now. And we at this point we are 20 minutes into the movie and we have no motivation for these alien characters yet. We still have no idea what or why they are doing. So just pointing that out. Mike is still really fixated on wanting a turtle, but it's just to annoy his sister. That's the animal that Mike has been after. Mike really wants a turtle, but it's only because turtles freak out his sister.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, okay, dude, sure. But yeah, this is the scene actually where the space cowboys are starting to win me over, where they have these like weird croaky alien voices, and they just keep going psst, 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 in communication to each other.
Yeah,
and like just having each other's sentences, like it's like it's almost in certain scenes as if like it's like a block of dialogue that's written that they just both say, and then they've like decided like which one says which part of the lines, and like trade back. I like that. I thought that was like pretty funny. But then, oh my god, we meet this horrifying child. Help me out.
Oh, the little girl?
Yeah.
She's her character's name. That's Sabrina Wiener is the actress's name. But I don't have her character's name on here.
That's okay. So Sabrina played Alexis. Alexis is her name.
Alexis.
And if Dina didn't want to make me like pierce my eardrums to stop it before, like as soon as this girl opens her mouth, I'm just like, oh my god, it's like nails on a chalkboard. I'm gonna just read what I wrote, and I wrote all of this in caps. What is this little girl, and what is this sea life hat and skirt? Why is this? Why the hell would they make this prepubescent girl this way? Why are they talking about the attractiveness of the other prepubescent girl? Everything is wrong here. Because the way they portray her is this weird, like, fashionista person, but there's this underlying, like, sexual quality to the conversation that they're having and the comments that she's making that I'm just like, what are you doing putting these words in the mouth of, like, a prepubescent girl?
Yeah.
It was very, very weird. And, like, that aspect of it kind of stops after the second time that she meets Dina, or maybe it's the scene where she meets Dina. That aspect doesn't last too long. Just her like weird fascination with making weird. And it's not a weird fascination with making weird clothes. That's just a weird character thing. It's just like that is such an odd character, with really odd dialogue. And so the other kid, the bigger kid, Nicky. He is, kind of lusting after a pet, and Mr. Zim tells him to come back after hours for a special free pet. It's supposed to be creepy, but it is way too creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
also, I mean, we can cut to the chase. These aliens are like out to, take the kids. They're giving them pets so that the pets will get sick when they don't get their vitamins. And then they're, so that they bring them back, and then they can take the kids. And the whole time I'm like, what? This is a very convoluted way to kidnap these children. You're already luring them to the back of the store.
I know. And after hours.
Just take them.
just grab them.
I don't.
Yeah. And I
don't want to be given advice on how to kidnap children, but
there's got to be a more direct way.
Taking a step too far.
But it's also like they explain later it's a weird tit for tat scenario. There's some sort of intergalactic law that dictates that you can go to another planet and take home pets, but you must leave an equivalent number of pets behind.
So they're gonna leave.
Yes.
But why? Like, without the kids, why? I don't know.
No. Their intention was to leave the 4 alien pets on Earth basically as a trade to the planet for taking their 4 human children to sell as pets to aliens.
Yeah, I understand that.
Oh, okay.
But why have these children get attached to these pets just to abandon them?
It doesn't
why
make any
not
sense.
give them to random other kids and then take these kids you really want?
Or why not use your weird paralysis powers that we find out that you have later?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's like the worst freeze acting in a movie I may have ever seen, is when the kids get frozen later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is when the movie just really starts going off the rails. So then, so it's not too long after this that we meet, we spend more time with Dina's brother, Charlie. moron.
Who's always eating.
Always eating, is supposed to be like really smart and going to MIT, but is like a dumbass. Only seems like a dumbass. And the whole family this whole stupid family just keeps smacking each other in the head. That's another thing I wrote down. Yeah, so... Oh yeah, and the Italian-American stereotypes in this movie are like kind of out of control.
It's crazy.
Like really out of control. There was like the mom was like, you know, calling the girl like her little cannoli and things, and like fine, like whatever. It's just like such like a thick, like, you know, tropey Italian American Brooklyn human thing that it's just like it goes past the point of being cartoonish and just being like, why? So the goons are then driving to Cactus Flats, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that we're with them. We know this is happening. Like, the mob boss is like, you must go murder these people, which I guess they just found out where they were somehow.
I'm like, they know. They just know where they are.
Yeah, it's just like, you need to go kill the rat. And they're like, okay. And then they go straight to Cactus Flats, Arizona. There is no protection.
Yeah. Which also, by the end of the movie, when the goons are gone, that's just like, the information is still out there that this mob boss knows where they live.
Right, but if you remember how that gets taken, do you remember how that gets taken care of in a plot way?
No, I don't.
It's Bernie Lomax says to U.S. Marshal, do we have to move again now? Because don't they know where we are? And U.S. Marshal goes, oh, shit. Sorry. Little bit of spit went, no, weird. Sorry. The U.S. Marshal says, because at this point the goons have been abducted into space, right? So there's no goons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He says he will send a telegram to the boss, as if it's from the goons, saying that the problem's been taken care of, and that should just take care of it. That should take care of it. And there's another scene later when Bernie's in the... I'm just going to keep calling him Bernie. When Bernie is in the diner, we seem to kind of learn that the whole town is just a witness protection town, and that's why it's so bland, and that's why it's so boring, because, like, who would want to come here? So, like, it would be not suspicious. But again, if the whole town is in witness protection, then there is no secret to that town being a witness protection town. So, like...
That's why they knew to go there.
It's got to be it. Just like, oh, they probably put him in Cactus Flats. Go check Cactus Flats first.
Yeah. Also, if you look at the when the dad is in the diner and he's talking to the guy, I was paying attention to the menu behind him.
Oh, were you?
And yeah, because it says like on it, it's listed things you can get: weak coffee that's not strong, and flat soda are two of the things that are listed on there.
I did notice that, like, when Bernie comes in, I asked for a cold drink, and he's given a can of RC Cola and an empty glass, and the can seems warm, and there is no ice in the glass. And there's actually another appearance of RC Cola in the movie, too, when the goons are pushing their car after they ran out of gas. There's an RC Cola can on the dashboard.
There's also Diet Right in another scene.
Oh, really? So guarantee that these were the cheap sodas that were just on set that just made their way into the movie.
Don't think it was some kind of a deal they had with RC.
I do not think that, no. So the goons aren't funny. The older brother is not funny. He's just
so when
gross.
The goons are like driving, they're playing Moonlight Sonata.
Yeah.
Why?
There's so many whys in this movie. We get to see. Well, Dina gets the dog, right? She goes to the pet shop and she gets the dog, because the aliens again are trying to do this weird luring plan, and one of the weirder aspects of when all four kids get each of their pets, like through the course of the movie, each kid is given a pet, and then they kind of come together as like a pet owner team and blah 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 blah, because they're going to be the ones that are kidnapped for slavery in the universe. And every time Mr. Zim has them sign some kind of contract, and it's because they read their own contracts that they've signed that they realize, like, if your animal's sick, come back to the store. So I'm like left wondering, is that literally the only reason why those contracts exist? Because to like let the kids know, like, oh, we can go back and get service. Because, like, is there, like, space court that those documents would hold up in? Like, for whose benefit are these minors signing contracts? And what authority figure will uphold a contract signed by a 12-year-old?
Well, like you said, maybe in space, the on a galactic level, the age restrictions on minors is lower than it is on Earth. So they're allowed to sign their life away?
Very well could be, man. So the scene where Mike gets his pet, we see inside of Mike's room. He's got like this classic PC and like a Game Boy and SimCity for DOS and like of course his new turtle.
It was so awesome seeing that Game Boy mint in the box. Like, wow,
it was
look at that.
Crispy box. Really nice sharp edges. So, and then of course what he just does is use the turtle to freak out his sister. And at this point, like, they establish so that his parents are like quote unquote on vacation, and like his sister is babysitting him, so it's just them alone in the house. What a novel way of not having to deal with more parents in the movie. And I at first didn't think they even cast anybody as the sister because she was just an off-screen voice, and then she shows up in a little bit, but so he uses the turtle just to freak out his sister, just like he wanted to. And then when that creature is revealed, he apparently knows how to play computer chess already. So
yeah, it's very smart.
Yeah, very smart, weird alien turtle.
Because Mike was like just insulting him and calling him dumb in the previous scenes. So
and then we go and we go to Nikki's house, and Nikki, the bigger kid, he's taking a bath. His mom comes in and tells him to get out of there, and then ridicules his weight. Like, she goes like, dinner's in 5 minutes, as if you need it. It's like, wow.
There's a lot of like unnecessary fat shaming in this movie.
There really is.
Which that wasn't even the first instance of it. When he's in the pet shop with Mike, he's got like chocolate all over his face.
That's true, and that's not the last time that happens in the movie either, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the little dragon reveals itself to annoying as balls Alexis. And then
she's like, "Am I dreaming?"
Am I dreaming?
As soon as it started.
And then Mike goes back over to Dina's house by creeping in her window uninvited. Because apparently that's just the way to go over to a friend's house when you're Mike in this movie. Is just to like go over to the person's house and climb in their window uninvited.
Well, they're taking this from a lot of tropes from like 80s like TV shows and movies where neighborhood kids are friendly and climbing into each other's windows. Except for this is a brand new person in this other character's life. That's like, what are you doing?
Right,
Who are you?
That mode, like, I have no problem with the mode. I get it. That's like Clarissa explains it all. But like, it's like they met 2 times ever, and then he's just climbing in her window. It's weird. That's just weird.
Yeah.
So they decide that they're going to have this powwow, the collective powwow about all the animals over at Mike's house, and convinces Dina's older brother Charlie to drive them by luring him with promise of flirtation with Mike's sister, which he keeps a photo, like a titillating photo of his sister in his wallet. Mike does, that he gives to Charlie, and there is no universe in which that's not weird.
No. And then when he feeds in the line, "I'll keep mine off yours if you put yours on mine."
Oh my god. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Like, why does he want that? I mean, I guess he wants it so that his sister is distracted.
Right. Right.
But like, she's not really paying him any mind anyway.
Never.
So what?
Never. I guess just to keep the older siblings occupied, but it's so deeply weird. So the kids go over to Mike's house. The parents go off somewhere and do their thing, and Mike is like, "My sister's in the back." Yeah, that's when that line that you just said happens. And so this whole scene with Charlie and Mike's sister is like really awful. Like really, it's just awful. It's misogynistic. It's gross. It's fat shaming. It's stupid. And the this poor girl isn't even like unattractive or overweight, really. I mean, like
no, like because Sarah and I were watching when the reveal happened, and we're like.
Right, like there's a reveal.
Is she supposed to be fat? Is that what they're saying?
There's a reveal that's supposed to imply like, oh, this potentially like hot girl is drifting over to me on her
just
pool floaty.
Comically, like
and then she like stumbles out of it, and the reveal is supposed to be like, oh, it's like she's not the hottie, she's the naughty, you know, and like, it's just like a regular sized human woman with like, she has kind of large breasts, and that's like. She's like, you know, I filled out a little bit. There's that line.
Yeah.
It's weird and it's bad. It's weird and it's bad. And it felt bad to watch.
Yeah, and then they turn her into a cartoonish character that is chasing him around.
Right, chasing around the beautiful young man from Brooklyn. That, yeah, it's... That's probably that's the aspect of the movie I probably hated the most. I was just like, this is like just there's no that wasn't good then. There's no version in which that was ever like funny. The pet owners have a powwow, and the pets, because the pets are looking unhealthy now, because they haven't gotten their vitamins that they need from space. They look sick, and one of them, I think it's Alexis. Maybe says they look anorexic, which is like...
She says, Queen, she looks anorexic.
Like, what? Again, like, wow. Anyway.
Yeah, I took note of that line, because I was like, wow, they're making a whole bunch of weight observations in this movie.
So then, like, they're like, okay, well, maybe they just haven't been fed. And also keep in mind, we have not seen these things being fed yet. So to me, it's just like, oh, so you just guys have never fed these guys. You just haven't fed your pets yet. So then we get our the movie's montage of making a scene in the kitchen where the kids put on chef's hats and
do like a Bernie Hill little segment where they're running around.
Yeah. And then the aliens all gorge themselves. Like, one was like feeding another one of them grapes, and like they were having like a great time eating, and they looked like they were getting a lot better. And then immediately afterward, I guess that didn't do anything, because they go back to looking very sick, like immediately following gorging themselves on all the food.
Yeah.
So they have to go to the pet store. After consulting their contracts, they go to the pet store.
Yeah. So Dina, she read the part about, oh, we can go take them back if they're feeling sick.
Right.
But there's got to be some lines in there about what they've signed away, and she just brushed over that.
Right. The other thing, too, is there's a part where the Zims comment that they fully intend, once they leave Earth with the children, that these 4 pets they brought with them will just die of starvation because they won't have access to the vitamins anymore. Like, that's fully their plan, is to not only kidnap 4 Earth children into slavery, but also, like, let the things that they brought to Earth, which are, like, way more intelligent than a lot of Earth animals of the same class, just starve and die. That was their plan. So these are, like, deeply evil aliens, really. Yeah. The goons, space cowboys reveal their plan to make children into space pets. All they have to do is leave behind the 4 pets on Earth. That's the intergalactic law. After a brief scuffle, newly revealed Conehead Man with third eye freezes kids where they stand with laser vision, except it's the worst freeze acting ever committed to film. Like, really, like, you know, when there's, like, the freeze, you want them to be like... And, like, really, but it was like... There was a lot of movement in the freeze acting.
Yeah. Also, like the reveal of the cone heads is
They don't
like
look that good.
yeah, and also it's like these are obviously like just rip-offs of the actual cone heads.
Yeah, which
because
had
this
been
is
on
like very
SNL
close to
for
that
years.
time.
Yeah, and yeah, the movie had just come out in '93, so like Coneheads, people know the Coneheads,
Now, like if we stick an eye in the middle of it, people aren't gonna notice.
and like not have it be as pointy, just have it come to like a flat top rather than a point. So one thing I noticed in the transfer of this movie is I guess the visual effects must have been done on video, because every time it cut to a visual effects shot of like the lasers coming out of the eyes or like glowing anything, it was obviously like taken and upscaled from the old Video Master, which I was just kind of a bummer. But I understand this movie was made for $7 and chicken wire. So then Bernie Lomax comes over to try to save the kids. He gets inside the store, and Mr. Zim tries to freeze him like he froze the kids. Accidentally freezes Mrs. Zim,
Yeah.
and then leaves her that way. Is there no way to undo this? Is this just like, must it just wear off with time? I was very confused by that. Like, why leave your other half frozen? That seemed weird.
Yeah. I don't know. Also, because they do kind of get him, and it doesn't work all the way because
Yeah, he just kind of gets dumb for a little
he's
bit.
very out of it when because when his wife and the marshal show up, he's got his face pressed up against the window, and she's like,
just drooling.
"Oh, he's been drinking." I'm just like, that's the first thing you think when you see like
Yeah,
this image is your husband's been drinking
and that I
in a
think
pet shop.
that moment I think is the best bit of physical comedy in the movie, where they're like, "Open the door." He's like, "Okay," and like crashes his head through the glass door. It was a pretty good bit of physical comedy. I laughed.
Yeah.
So the kids are in the back of the store at this point, in cages, and the pets are trying to help free them. One of the pets gets the keys over to Dina. I hated this so much. So the shot, right, is kind of this profile shot, or like maybe like 3/4, and you can see both, like, you know, this angled side, like the side of the thing and the front of the cage. And she's trying to squeeze her hand through the bars in the front to get to the lock, and she can't. There are much bigger spaces between the bars onto her right and left that aren't the front door that she could have easily slid her hand through and did not. And then the little turtle guy comes over and bends the bars apart on the front instead, which is like, I'm sorry. If you can do that, surely so can the full-sized human girl that's in the cage can bend the very thin wire bars of the cage. Anyway, that's super nitpicky, but like, I was just like, this cage isn't keeping anyone anywhere.
Maybe it's a special kind of alien material that only the turtle could bend.
Sure, I'll buy that. Great. Sure, I'll buy it. So there's a scuffle, right? The pets help out. There's a bit of a scuffle. The dad, Bernie, and the wife, and the goons all eventually wind up inside the back room. And the goons are going to kidnap Dina. They have a knife to her throat.
Mm-hmm. I love the shot of the goons trying to break down the door.
That was pretty funny too, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, and then eventually they get in. They get transported instead of the kids.
Yeah. So what like the trickery is, Dina activates the weird like blob tube that is some kind of transportation thing, while she's like in the center of the room. She's activated it. She like the aliens didn't see it. She grabbed the crystal that activates it, and she uses the dinosaurs to like literally swing out of there while leaving the goons trapped in this wormhole thing. And then the aliens give up.
Yeah, they're like, well,
leave?
This...
I mean, was there something I missed? It was literally just like, oh, those goons didn't get them. I guess we should just go. And then they leave. And they take their whole room with them.
Yep, that's it.
What?
No we ran fighting? Out of movie, guys.
No more fighting? No more like, oh, well, now those guys are gone. We have possession of the girl again.
Yeah.
No, they're just like, oh, we've obviously been defeated.
Let's dance while we transport away.
They do dance while they transport. It was pretty funny.
Also, when the goons get sucked up into like the wormhole thing, and they show the reaction shot of the kids, the look on Alexis's face, she is so overjoyed. Like you think she was in, like walking in a Disney World, seeing these two guys. Like we don't know what it's doing to them at this point. We're like, are they dying? Like what? She could be seeing two guys getting murdered, and she's just completely overjoyed.
Absolutely. And there's a cool concept that's just not well executed, which is that like after the Zims go up through the tube, the room kind of like folds and collapses in on itself and becomes just like a blob that shoots into space. You know, it's not a great effect, but it's a cool idea. And so now the pets have been abandoned on Earth, and the movie can't resist one last awful, terrible, stupid joke about Charlie and Mike's sister. Where he, like, drives up to the pet shop in his car, like, all freaked out, and the sister is, like, chasing him on her scooter.
Yeah.
Bad.
This family, they're always running away from trouble.
From trouble. And then we learn at the very end, just because, as we established, if the aliens don't get their vitamins, they will die. But then it turns out that the dirt in Arizona has the vitamins. So they can literally eat dirt and be fine.
That's what they needed all along.
And then my final...
It was foreshadowed earlier when Charlie had installed the sprinkler system.
Yes.
And they didn't have grass, but it was just making a bunch of mud.
We established mud. Way to establish mud, movie. And I did make the note this movie ends on a shot of the newly painted house and the mural of the skyline of New York City painted on the garage. And it's kind of a nice mural. And it's actually a nice final shot. Shame about the rest of the movie.
Yes. Which that mom painted in record time.
She painted it in like, what?
Very detailed mural.
2 hours?
Yeah.
Like, in between freaking out about where her kids were? Whatever. Pet Shop!
Yeah, Pet Shop. That's the movie.
So, I just saw your sister's request for a Brooklyn accent.
Yeah,
so that was the movie. That was the movie Pet Shop. I can't do it. I cannot do it.
Yeah,
I don't
could not do it either.
Sorry, Renee.
Start singing. What's the song they sing where the buffalo roam?
Oh my gosh.
That's how they like enter and exit the movie.
That's true. Oh yeah, that bookends them as a family, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's so lovely. The sounds of that.
And it's so weird. I still just feel like it's structurally so weird to like open on Mike. Like Mike is the opening character in the movie, and we're with him for the whole opening sequence. And then after the
he's a secondary character.
And he's a secondary character the whole rest of the movie. Like I don't understand why we're not on the road with I don't know. It's a freaking weird construction of a thing. Yeah. It's not very good. But it looks cool, and if you are interested in seeing some cool creature effects and creature designs from the time, I would strongly recommend just like kind of scanning through it on Tubi and just like watching sections just to see these cool puppets.
The origin of the Furby in this movie.
Yeah, look, again, I'm showing these creatures again because they look freaking cool. And yeah, it's exactly a Furby. It's exactly a Furby.
I can't believe like Moonbeam didn't like go after Tiger or whoever made Furby.
Who was it? Toy Biz maybe? Mattel. I think Mattel made them. and Warner
Yeah, I don't
Brothers
think-
sued them
Oh, interesting.
for
I was gonna say.
Mogwai infringement.
That's I can see that too. But yeah, Moonbeam did not have the money to go
Yeah,
after
Moonbeam
Mattel,
doesn't have
apparently.
that money. So yeah, I don't.
Mattel was like, we're taking this. There's nothing you can do about it.
Correct. I don't think I got anything else to say on Pet Shop. How about you, buddy?
No, other than like it is just as scary as I thought it would be, and creepy and other ways than I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. All the ways in which I liked it the least were all surprises.
Mm-hmm.
There were, just like aside from the movie like not being as funny as it probably thinks it is, or like characters not making sense, or like just nuts and bolts kind of structural stuff not being very good. Those weren't surprising to me. The weird sexualization of children and fat shaming were the most weird parts to me.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow. When we keep watching these Moonbeam movies, because I would like to watch Remote, and I feel like I have good memories of Remote. I think it would be a better quality, but based on what we've seen thus far, I've got no
it's kind of a
guarantees
lot to
there.
hope for.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of a lot to hope for, man. But we'll see when we get there.
And Remote is basically, I mean, we're not talking about it right now, but just because we're on Moonbeam and stuff, like, it's a ripoff of like Home Alone, is what that is.
Oh, is it? Is it like a MacGyver-y kind of kid in a Home Alone kind of a scenario?
That's what I feel like. That's what I've always associated it with.
Because like Three Ninjas is Home Alone, but with three ninjas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is like Home Alone, but with a kid and remote controlled things.
Cool. Should we just watch that one for next week and like be done with Moonbeam, or do you want to stretch out the Moonbeam a little further and like wait a few more weeks until we come back into the world?
I don't know. Tell me, what other things are you looking? Are you thinking, considering?
Well, I'm looking at this list, and I feel like Suburban Commando, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I think my pick would be Suburban Commando if you weren't feeling like staying in the Moonbeam universe. Otherwise, I would say like let's watch Remote and just like get off this crazy train. Because like after and it's nice to know too that like the rose-colored glasses of nostalgia don't like totally shade everything I watch, because like I did like Prehysteria and Pet Shop very much in my memory and not so much upon re-experiencing them. So I do fear the same kind of thing with Remote. And I just
Yeah, Pet Shop did not hold up to me as well as Prehysteria. I was also way more familiar with Prehysteria. I watched that movie a ton.
Yeah.
So, but this one I was not as familiar with.
Sure.
But yeah, let's go ahead and do Suburban Commando.
All right,
and
man.
We will hold on to that last bit of Moonbeam.
For another time. Which is Remote available? Is that one streaming?
I think that's on
it's also
Tubi
on
as
Tubi.
well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So I guess
I'm
that's
pretty
just like
sure.
the classic core Moonbeam movies.
There are a few others I remember, but that's...
Yeah, I mean, there was Beanstalk. I think there was a Leprechaun movie.
Yeah, and there's also one with a dragon. Like a full-size dragon.
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Dragon Quest? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about that one. I've never seen that one.
Yeah, I have seen it, but again, I cannot speak to
Right.
any quality.
It might just hurt to watch.
Yeah.
Suburban Commando is streaming free with ads on Vudu. So that is it's also rentable all across the internet, but free with ads on Vudu.
Cool.
Or you could rent it from, I guess, Redbox, Apple TV, Fandango, Amazon. I guess Microsoft rents movies Corporations.
Oh my gosh! Finally, some like stars that are household names.
Oh yeah, man, we're gonna watch a movie with friggin' Hulk Hogan and Christopher Lloyd and Shelley Duvall. Oh my god, I forgot Shelley Duvall is the wife in this movie. That's exciting. I love Shelley Duvall.
Wow. Yeah, I've never seen this movie.
Yeah, so I'll just read the synopsis for Suburban Commando. It's from 1991. Shep Ramsey, that's Hulk Hogan's name. Shep Ramsey is an interstellar hero, righting wrongs, etc. His ship is damaged after a fight with an interstellar nasty, and he must hide out on Earth until it can recharge. He leaves his power suit at home, but still finds himself unable to allow wrongs to go unrighted, and so mixes it up with bad drivers, offensive paperboys, muggers, and the like. Movies you might like if you like this movie include Three Ninjas, Masters of the Universe, and Super Mario Brothers. So, that's kind of what we're getting into.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's that.
Oh. I am excited.
And are you gonna? So our audience at large knows you're moving this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you gonna have time to watch this movie and do the show next week?
We'll still plan on it.
Okay.
And stay tuned, everybody.
Stay tuned.
And we might get postponed a week.
And if we do, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. I don't got anything else. Should I cue up our little play out tune here?
Yeah. So in the meantime, Alex, where can people find more of you?
People can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Alex Brunel, trying to retweet important information about the state of our country. Also, digitizing mini DV and VHS tapes to support Black Lives Matter and other related causes. Just find me on social media and shoot me a message.
Yeah, do it. And
what about
you can find the show on Twitter at Who Watches Pod, Instagram Who Watches Podcast. We are on Facebook where we stream every week, as well as on Twitch and YouTube.
Yep.
And you can subscribe to the show, the audio show, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe, leave reviews, and leave us feedback. It is all very appreciated. And until next week, where we visit Suburban Commando, please stay safe, stay sane, and stay smiling.
See ya.